What's good with it? In the hood with it. Welcome back to the Collective Clips where we really get it in. Now, what I wanted to talk about today are YA horror stories, right? See, a lot of people that went to the California Youth Authority, they could stamp this. They could tell you straight up exactly what it is, right? And I'm going to tell you right now, man, it wasn't no laughing matter. I'm fucking glad they shut all the CYAs down. I'm glad that no other children, none of our raza, none of our people, nobody has to go through that shit again. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Sasuke, it was different, eh? Right? It was much different. And it was a true horror story just living through that. But there are several stories that I have to tell that no one else has put out there. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was the freeze, right? And for those of you that were there in the 90s, the late 80s to the 90s, you know exactly what the freeze is. Let me tell you what the freeze is and how they used it to manipulate, and get other groups, other sections mad at you, how they used it to get other gangs to want to get at you. I mean, it just was different, right? It was all a manipulation game. The way the administration utilized us like ragdolls, utilized the wards because we were wards of the state, right? Ward of the state being locked down, a motherfucking ward of the state. Orderly Ascari X, right? They definitely utilized us and fucked with us real bad. Now, the freeze was a punishment if a melee happened, a riot, a melee, a 3-on-3, a 3-on-1, whatever it may be, depending upon whatever group did it, is why you went on the freeze. Now, it seemed like when I was in Fred C. Nellis, which was located down south in Whittier off Whittier Boulevard, no joke, right? This youth authority, they like to utilize the freeze quite frequently. Oh, they put us on the fucking freeze. Out of the fucking 2.5 to almost 3 years I was there, I was frozen fucking 1.5 years of it, right? They like to do the freeze, and especially when the Norteños touched down, it's when the freeze started to really, really happen. Now, anytime we would get in a melee or riot, and this is the funny thing, the cops knew what they were doing. They knew we were going to get off on each other. They knew what time it was. When you put North and South together, especially in the 90s, it was going to happen. There was no fucking justifying it. There was no talking about it. There was no thinking about it. It just was get off where you were mad at. And I'm going to talk about 2 riots that happened and why we got put on freeze and how that made the Crips and the Bloods and the Woods, brother, very, very upset with both. I mean, they didn't do shit. They wanted to. At one point, it almost came to that, but it didn't happen. But these are the true horror stories that the Youth Authority had to offer, right? The first riot that I was involved in that really I could consider a riot, not just a melee, but a real fucking full-blown chairs being thrown, battery packs being swung, knives being wielded, was definitely on Kennedy Hall, right? Kennedy Compa, the cottage. They called them cottages in Nellis. There were several of them. They decided that if for no other reason, they were going to send us to Kennedy. Now, Kennedy was a drug program. And let me tell you about the drug program before people think I was a droguero and a drug addict. I was a young kid. I wasn't know none of that. I hadn't even tried fucking dope, to tell you the truth, right? To that point. What drugs were, of course, was something to manipulate the mind. We all know what it is. And they utilized fucking that there to build these drug cottages to help us, to rehabilitate us. But really all they did was give us a fucking packet a week. And whether we did it or not, it was what it was. Just being there, we were doing our drug program. But I got into the drug program because when I was in NRCC and the ERE, which was the reception for the Norteños, my fucking celly little Inez, the Fresno Bulldogs, told me, hey, if you tell them this, you'll get to go to OH and you'll go over here and wiggle and it's all good. So anyways, I did that and I ended up on Kennedy Cottage in Fred C. Nellis down south. Oh yes, the Sud was real, right? And is. So anyways, I get to Nellis. And when we walked into that compa, the atmosphere, we got very quiet. And I remember 10 of us walking in, me, Soldier Boy from Stockton, Bad Boy from Sacra, Shadow from Richmond, Guate from Porterville, and several others, right? Joker from San Leandro, right? We all walked in Puerto de Sanjo. And when we walked in, it got very quiet. All the Sureños, all the Southerners were sitting down in these chairs. Now, there was rows of these big brown Cadillac chairs. We called them Cadillacs, right? They were big, heavy, fake leather, pleather like a motherfucker. Your back start went, it sounded like this, like, whenever you got off. But that's the way these chairs were set up, and they were in long rows. And I remember the Sureños had their own certain rows. Blacks had their rows. Whatever little bit of whites were there, they sat in their rows, usually with the Southerners. And there was a few others, and they kind of sat off to the side. So it was going to be a battle just to identify where we could sit. It wasn't just like you go there, you sit anywhere. You had to fight for your chair. If you got a Cadillac, a nice one, and all the nice ones, everyone, they were spoken for. But if you wanted a nice one that wasn't all ripped up with fucking springs hitting your back, orale, ours didn't have springs because we took them all to make shanks. But, orale, weapon stock. But the fucking, the chairs, you were going to have to fight for them. So anyways, as I walked through, I remember that was the first thing on my mind. And I remember that day, man, we were on Cleveland Cottage and they told us to roll it up. You're going to Kennedy. We had heard a lot of stories about Kennedy. Going to the school area, a lot of the fights that we got involved in, a lot of the little melees or little 2-on-1s or getting snaked on or whatever the case may be, always was guys out of Madison and Kennedy Cottage, right? These were always the knuckleheads. And I thought because it was drug cottages, maybe they were fucking a little 5150 and off their rocker. But that wasn't the case. These were just like the riders, the vatos that were willing to put in work, right? And now we're going to one of their compas. So you already know the word on the curb is we're going to get taxed. We're going to get smashed on, right? But we were expecting that. And we weren't going out like no knuckleheads. We were going to handle our business as well. To what degree of business? Well, let me tell you. We definitely went there scrapped up. You know, a few of us had pieces on us. A couple homeboys had battery packs. A couple of us had rocks and socks. We weren't going there unarmed. We were going there ready for whatever because our homeboys on Cleveland, compa, they had told us, hey, you guys are going to, it's going to be on, right? So fuck it, if it's going to be on, it's going to be on, G. You know, if it's on and it's on and it's on, G. So fuck it, let's go, right? So I remember walking in and it got very quiet. So quiet you could hear a pin drop. And I remember looking around and I'm seeing several Southerners look at me and the hatred and the looks in their eyes, I thought I was dead. I thought I'd already got killed in a riot and fucking this was my hell, right? I can't explain the feeling, you know, to be placed in a situation like that as a young kid, knowing that these guys hate your guts. They hate you, not because they know you, but because they think or they're told they're supposed to hate you. It was a bad feeling. And I hated them just as much as they hated me. I hated them more so for the fact that they hated me. There was a lot of hating going on back then, you know. The hating nowadays is different. This was real hatred. So as we walked in, it got very quiet. And I remember one Sureño stood up. And he was like, hey, you vatos could sit over there. And there was a wall with all Cadillac chairs. Like they had placed them there on the side. Which, no sweat. I thought that was cool because not only did we get great chairs, but we got a space where we could see everybody and everything. But really the way they were thinking was like, we'll put you guys way over there. We're basically running your program. That's where you guys go. We took it as good. Now we can see all you motherfuckers and we ain't got to worry. Now we're going to get off where we're mad at. And I remember us going down to the dorms, being assigned to our bunks. There was a short wall and a tall wall. And we all got assigned, you know, to where we got assigned. And I remember looking at everybody and everybody's eyes. There was like excitement. A couple of homeboys were scared, apprehensive. I had butterflies in my stomach, you know, it was just straight from caterpillars to butterflies. I was like, guard! Hey, it was going to be all ugly. But I knew that I was going to have to do what I had to do, and we all were. So I remember we came out to that day room. No, in fact, we went to chow first. We went to chow. It was very quiet at chow. Nobody was talking. A couple of the black dudes were conversating, but they kept looking over at us with disdain, right? And the reason why the black dudes were feeling this way about us, the brothers were tripping, was because they knew we were going to go on a lockdown. Now, prior to this, I had never been on the freeze and didn't even know what the fuck it was. They had, right? So they knew freeze was coming, man, and it was going to be all bad. It was our fault, basically. Everything was, hey, it's Northerners did it, right? It was going to be all our fault for even fucking being alive, for existing. We were basically hated for existing. And that's a fucking hard feeling to live with, especially as a kid. So anyways, we went to chow. It was very quiet. We came back. We went to our bunks, and everyone got prepared to go to day room. And when we hit that day room, I'll never forget. We were sitting in our chairs, and there was a water faucet, old school water faucet, like the ones at school. You press it, the water shoots out. And this vato kept getting up. I don't know if he was nervous to kick it off, or he was just waiting for the right time. But he was actually a black Southerner. He was a Southerner, black. His name was Crook. I forget what water he was from, but I remember his name was Crook, his blackazo. And he kept looking at us, and his fucking pants were so big, I was like, man, if he tries to run this way, he's going to trip, right? But he's sipping his water, and he can't get up. I said, nah, they're about to fucking have that beer or something. He keeps drinking too much. And all of a sudden, Estrella, right? Ah! He came running at us like an Aztec warrior, only a black one. More like a Zulu warrior, but with big pants. And the Vato came running. We jumped up and everybody started, let's get ready to rumble. It's time, right? UFC shit. People were flying, literally. Chairs were flying, battery packs. People were throwing their battery packs at each other. I was getting packed by two dudes. I got stabbed under the underarm pit. I remember scrape, just a little scrapage, never hurt nobody, right? It did me, but other people probably wouldn't. Anyways, it was just fucking going down. Big melee, big riot. I mean, it was crazy. People were, by the time the cops got in there, because they hit the pin, people started running. Blacks kind of backed up, let us do our thing. Anyways, by the time the Placas got in there, they maced everyone, sprayed everyone down. And one thing about getting maced in an area like that, everyone feels the repercussions for that. They started to strip us out right there in our boxers, socks, and chanclas and throw us down to fucking the dorm, right? They all had us face down on the bunks for about 3 hours while they're doing their little investigations. It wasn't hard to figure out. It was a North and South riot. It was something that was going to happen. I remember when that riot was, during the riot, I was actually thinking, it's crazy because it was like slow motion. I could see everything. And I was thinking, this ain't even that bad. Boom! That hurt, right? Really, this ain't that bad. It really wasn't how I pictured it like in the movies, you know, like the prisons. It was fun. Actually, it was kind of fun. It was like a free-for-all. There were so many people swinging that it really didn't, you didn't get hit too many solid ones. You know, there was a couple people knocked backwards, but I didn't. I got lucky on this one, this particular one, my first one. So anyways, they got us down on the bunks and we're face down. And the senior was basically like who was running the compa. He was the cop, the main cop in charge of the cops and us. He comes down screaming at us, yelling at us, you motherfuckers want to gangbang, you want to play, you guys think you're bad, you guys think you run shit, you don't run shit. We're going to show you who runs shit. They made us all strip down to just boxers, socks, and shower shoes. I don't even remember if we had socks, to tell you the truth. It's been that long. But we had to sit up at the edge of our bunks. And we were on the freeze. We got to go to the latrine area, which was the bathroom, one by one. And I remember as we're all looking at each other thinking, is someone going to pop it off? No weaponry, just chanclas. I mean, if you want to get it, you can get it. I have my chanclas on. I could just boom, boom, shoot them off and get off. It's always better bare feet on concrete. Then they put us on freeze, right? And what the freeze was, and everybody suffered. Not just North and South, not just people involved. A few people got taken to the oil who they seen with weaponry or whatever. But whoever laid back, I mean, the blacks, the Asians, the Usos, everybody was going to suffer. We had to sit at the end of our bunks all day long and eat 2 cheese sandwiches and drink a milk 3 times a day. Now, let me tell you what 2 cheese sandwiches and a milk 3 times a day does to you. At first, it's like, it is what it is. By the 3rd or 4th day, bro, you can't shit. By the fucking 5th or 6th day, you feel like your stomach's going to explode. By the 7th and 8th day, bro, you're looking at anyone for help, right? You need help. After about a month of the freeze. Now, we're talking about no school. We're talking about no talking, no TV, no music, sitting on the bunk all day long. Fools are sleeping like that with cheese and fucking bread hanging out their shit, right? Some people, they went into car. You thought they died and shit. Anything to go get some fucking applesauce at the fucking infirmary, right? It was just that bad. This was part of a horror story. This was something you can't even imagine unless you went through it, you know? And what this did in the process is the brothers, the whites, everybody would get mad at the Mexicans. They would, man, you motherfuckers always fucking it up. So let me tell you, the second riot, what happened. So we're on the freeze. So what the administration decided to do was put all these fucking Cadillac chairs in a big circle and bring out the who's who of the who's what of the he said, she said, whoever is fucking shot calling, all out there. Of course, all the Norteños are out there. Several of the Southerners, there's probably about 20 Southerners, 10 Northerners. Well, 2 of my homeboys went to the oil, so there was 8 of us. Couple whites, couple blacks, couple Crips, couple Bloods, you know. They sat us all down in these chairs and they wanted us to talk it out. They wanted us to talk about why we shouldn't fight and what we're going to do now. And that was going to determine if they were going to take us off the freeze or not. Of course, there was a vato named Lazy from Avenues. He decided that if for no other reason, he wasn't with that program. He decided to jump up and we were estrellas again. And boom, there we go. Another riot. This one wasn't that bad because it was more of a even Steven. A couple blacks got involved. They were like, fuck this cuz on power. The motherfuckers were getting involved. They were going to get theirs. We went on another month straight of the freeze. By this time, man, it felt like you were dying. Hair falling out, skin clammy, just horror, right? Horror. That was one of the ways the administration basically tortured us into basically saying, okay, all right, we're done. And then we finally had a conversation with the Southerners, like, okay, we'll just go by the handball courts and we'll do it in the those kids rice, they don't work. Are you hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. You hungry, sir? Yeah, dog, I'm fucking hungry. How about you? And I'm hungry, right? Everybody was starving to death. I remember when they first released us after the freeze, man, so many spreads were being thrown, stale ass salt pies, no one cared. We were hungry, right? Anyways, the freeze was a very bad, torturous situation. It was a horror story, but let me tell you a true horror story. There was a black in there. I'm not going to even mention his name. Now, this guy liked to frisk inmates, wards. And this dude liked to fucking grab on shit, right? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this vato was notorious. He was a straight chirujo. Everybody knew he worked on Monroe. I think that was the compa he worked on. But every once in a while, they had placas move around, you know? And I remember the way that fool used to talk. He used to say, get against the wall. Get against the wall, boy. You better feel me. You better feel me, boy. He was a black dude, curly, long hair, just looked fucking just, I'm wet. I'm wet. Look, he was like dripping. His Jerry curl was dripping. He looked like he stunk from 2 miles away. Just a bad look, right? The brothers was like, this brother right here, right? Nobody liked him. He liked the little white guys. Sorry, Woods. Brother, he grabbed you by every ball you had, right? He would get people against the walls, fucking searching them, doing wild shit to them. I remember seeing him do this and thinking to myself, wow, man. And other cops would just smirk and laugh. And these were some of the torturous tactics and things that people did while incarcerated, while in YA they had to go through, right? These cops, man, they didn't care about us. There was no fucking trying to help us rehabilitate. There was a couple cool black guys that tried, but for the most part, these dudes just fucking tortured us. So anyways, you know, I went through the freeze several times. I went to the box. Now, let me tell you about the box. We called it the box. The box, the caja was the hole, the equivalent to the hole in prison. Hey, they had these big mesh windows. Rain would come through. Fucking if it was ice cold, you'd have to sleep inside your mattress. It was so cold. It was just a very torturous situation. Some of the things I went through, and then the psychological aspect of me being down south, having to deal with the enemiga, having to deal with fucking people hating on us just because we existed. You know, it was just a bad look. So anyways, I go to Preston, right? And you think the horror stops there? Nah. I had to hit Tamarack, right? Tamarack is a dungeon, man. It's one of the worst oils, you know, like the Rock and YTS. And of course, Tamarack. These are the most known oils, the most known boxes. Fucking just torturous situations, screaming, yelling, dirtiest fucking place I've ever been in my life, you know. The cops didn't care. You know, there was shit in your food. It was just a bad situation. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a caca. Oh, yeah. You don't believe me? Let me tell you. Hey, let's go back to Nellis real quick. We're pressed on, but and that's bad. But we'll go back to Nellis. Let me tell you about caca and the food. So when we're in the box, they had two porters. And in the beginning, the two porters were always Southerners, right? Always. Never seen no black porters, white. It was always Southerners back in my days. They had the Jews, you know, there was more of them than anyone else. The blackers didn't want to deal with the bullshit. They were like, if we put them in a position to fucking have a jale, then they could pass whatever they want for their homeboys, chop it up with their homeboys. They'd be at their windows all day. These porters were out all day mobbing. They would be all on the fucking AC side, which was basically the oil, and they'd be on the tap side, which was like more of a lockdown situation. So we had a lot of different people mixed up. You'd have south, north, south, black, white, south, north, bulldog, whatever, all in the oil. And you think we didn't go through the blues as Northerners? Well, that's why they call it the blues. We're talking about lights getting flicked on and off. Hey, light restriction. Your light's on all night, bitch, right? We're talking about fucking shitting our food, pissing our food. We're talking about, you know, God knows what, right? Hey, right in front of you, spitting in your food, throwing mop bucket water under your fucking, you know, just a lot of the torture things that we went through, a lot of the horror stories that we went through, man. That's what I'm talking about when I say caca on the food, like real life shit, human shit. The situation in the youth authority was hectic in my time. Did it get a little bit better? I don't know. Wasn't there. I was just glad I was fuck out of there, man. Prison was much better than YA, I'll tell you that much. But some of the things we went through, I don't wish on no person, especially a child. There's so much more that happened, you know. Getting to Preston, you know, it was a little bit more different because I was up north. So that alleviated that pressure of being down south. But still, man, the way the cops did it, they let you fight. You know, it was kind of like, hey, if you want to be on your gangster shit, be on your gangster shit as long as we don't have to do paperwork. So handle your business. And I remember, man, you know, if you made a cop mad, he would get the biggest dude on the compa to beat the littlest dude up. There was a lot of that going on. There was rape going on. There was people getting fucked off or getting fucked. Most of those people that did that, it was kind of like a manipulation thing. They weren't just going in there snatching it up. You know, a lot of them dudes were fucking leva or they were fucking scared. And so they were manipulated into giving up the chong chong. And that's just it. So it was happening. It wasn't happening like the movies like you see every time, but it definitely was going on. It was just a bad look. Anyways, them are some of the horror stories of YA. You know, I kind of want to get into a story about, you know, somebody in there, and I'll do it in another video, but what this kid went through, man, the suffering. You know, that's why nowadays, man, I'm all about positivity, and I hope that kids see these videos and they take it for what it is, and the raza, you know, some of the shit we had to go through. You know, you think about the North and South, you say, damn, homes, that's right, homie, it's cool wearing the baggy pants and the lokes and the red paños and the blue paño or whatever, right? And you're all fucking gangstered out, homes. But you don't know what we had to go through. Some of the people that have set down the foundation for what is going on now, right? Some of what we're considered OGs now, I guess in the 40s and 50s, what we had to go through in the 90s when we were there, when real guerra was happening, when it was real war, when there was no peace treaties, no end to hostilities, no fucking hugs and kisses, and no fucking playing handball together, none of that, right? I'm not disrespecting that. I'm saying it is what it is nowadays. I'm saying back then, though, there was none of that. Back then, it was pick up a fucking knife and stab someone. With that being said, man, I hope that you guys move smooth with a purpose, get everything that you want coming to you. And remember, at the end of the day, man, these are not stories to shock you or hurt you. These are stories to help you and to let you know exactly some of the things that we went through as children, you know, being gang members in California in the 90s. With that being said, thumbs up, thumbs down. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like and subscribe right here to the Collective Clips, as I'm going to be dropping fucking bombs daily. Bang, bing, boom, boom. Guard! Fuck you and all those YCs from YA. Bang, bang. The gun. It's official.